everyone. Thank you all so very much for joining us this evening. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. Roll call, please.
Okay. Nelson?
Here.
Gregg?
Here.
Blackman? Here. Paredes?
Here.
Huckabee? Here. Ford?
Present, and there's one more on the phone, sorry.
Simmons.
I think I'm the only one. And a quorum is present. Thank you all very much. So we're going to move the agenda around just slightly because we do have guests visiting us this evening from River Forest. So I know we have a few SD 161 residents or families who have signed up. If there's anyone else who'd like to sign, by all means, you can do that really quick. But what we want to move into first is recognition of our students, and then we will go into our presentation from our guests, and then we will take audience comments and then follow the rest of the agenda. So first on the agenda will be the math bowl participants.
This side out here. Kathy here. Up there.
We would like to congratulate all of the students who participated in the 2018 South Cook Math Bowl. The Math Bowl was held at Prairie State College on May 10th and 11th. Our district was one of 30 participating districts at the bowl. I'm going to read the teams and the names of the kids that are on the teams. If you are here tonight, boys and girls, when I say your name, let's try to make a line up at the front here because I believe that the board wants to also congratulate you. In preparation for the competition, all teams met weekly after school. So our Division A team included Bradley Middleton, come on up, Brad. Shane McGathy, Aviala Exxon, Daniel Falahu, Caitlin Chung, Zephyr Peters, and our coach was Miss Kite Greener. Now, hold on guys. Now, Daniel placed 5th overall. And the team also placed 5th overall. Our Division B team included Maddie McGathy, Satya Viner, Max Cuevas, Cormac Saunders, Dower Groen, and Gavin Jenner. This team was coached by Mrs. Morocco. Cormac placed 2nd overall. And Dow placed 4th overall. Our Division C team included Noel Dolan, Gus Zillman, Gianni Alberico, Jack Piros, Emily Thompson, Jaquan Ratliff, Hyundai Kid, and was coached by Mrs. Mulhern. On our Division C team, Gus placed 5th. And Jack placed 2nd.
So great job, elementary students. Well, you can grab a seat.
And our Division D team included Dean Barrow, Liam Nelson, Angela Lozzi, Haley Walker, Keisha Tobin, and David Gibbon. This team was coached by Ms. Davis. Liam, hold up guys, hold up. Liam placed 2nd overall. And the team placed 3rd. Congratulations to all of the boys and girls who participated in the Mat Bowl.
Next up will be our History B students.
Okay, we have a number of students to recognize this year for the History B, and we're going to recognize our students who qualified for regionals. If your name's called, please come on down. We have Dean Barrow, Jack Piros, Ava Zender, Mickey McRory, Avery Calhoun, and Faye Wetstein. And these students qualified for regionals. Next, we want to recognize our History B participants who qualified for the national meet in Atlanta, Georgia. Send 3 of them back to you, Sue. We have Jack Piros, Mickey McRory, and Ava Zender. Congratulations. Sure. So we have a number of students who participated in Geography B. We wanted to recognize the top 10 students who participated. Really worked hard on this. Your name is called, please come on down. Jack Piros. Surprise you there? Chloe Eldorado. Victoria Plummer. Faye Wetstein. Dean Barrow. Avery Calhoun. Jose Serrato. Jordan Belcher. Lillian Pecora. And Tyrone Williams. Good job. So the overall school winner was Jack Piros. He did test qualify for regionals, did not make it to nationals, but it's been almost 8 years since we've had a student qualify for the regionals, which is a huge deal. So congratulations.
Just joining us and may not have heard, we are switching the agenda around slightly this evening. So we started with our student recognition portion, and now we're going to move to our presentation on diversity and equity, for equity and inclusion. I'll give folks a few seconds to leave. Our guests, please don't think that the topic is, not that exciting for everyone. This happens all the time.
I run a back policy think tank. People run screaming.
Okay, so we're going to, Dr. Smith, do you want to give a 30-second intro to our guests from River Forest?
We're very thankful to have Dr. Ed Condon and Mr. Ralph Martiri here with us tonight. Dr. Condon is the superintendent in River Forest School District 90, and Mr. Martiri is the Board of Education President in that same district. Board Member Forrest and I had an opportunity to visit with them in February to talk about this important work, the work that they had done in River Forest around the topics of equity and inclusion, and the value that it had added to the ways that they serve their community. We thought it was a great opportunity as we are starting our work in District 161 with our own Equity and Inclusion Committee, but also as the Village of Flossmoor begins to walk the path of equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's a great opportunity to reach out to some colleagues from another community to share with us. So welcome, both of you. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Can you hear me in the microphone? And so I'm the board president of River Forest District 90. Dr. Condon here is our superintendent. And we really embarked seriously on this equity campaign about 4 years ago. And we came about it in sort of an odd way. So if you think about River Forest, do any of you know River Forest? You know River Forest? We're sort of a tawny little community. I think we have a zoning ordinance against poverty. I mean, it's really kind of a more affluent area. But we noticed something odd in our data. While we were a high-performing school district in general and overall, we weren't high-performing for all kids. And consistently, we saw there was an achievement gap between our white and minority kids. And not only did we see that it was a consistent gap, but that it grew over time. Now that's not acceptable in any community, and it clearly indicates our system had a flaw. Our system was not designed to provide every kid with a high-quality educational opportunity. That's just not acceptable. And it's really not acceptable to leave any kid behind if you care about a school district. But in River Forest, our demographics are changing. And we've gone from just about 15, 20 years ago being 93, 94% white to only being 72% white. And that's been a powerful and positive change for the district. But one that really we took up and noticed that, wait a minute, if we're not reaching our minority kids, we're not reaching a growing number of the kids that we have a responsibility to educate. So what are we going to do about it? So, yeah, we have a vision. It's great. That's our vision. That kind of stuff. It'll laugh. I'm the board president. I'm not big on this process. Everybody has a nice vision and mission statement. I care more about jumping into the work. So the first thing the board did was we created our equity committee. And our equity committee had a very narrow focus. And the focus was really pretty simple. We wanted to get to a place where a student's race or ethnicity or gender had no statistically meaningful correlation to that student's anticipated academic performance. We wanted a kid's academic performance to be based solely on what that kid was willing to do, not on any innate qualities of the kid. So to get there, the equity committee met for about a year and made a number of recommendations to our board. And these recommendations were challenging, but our board passed them unanimously. And we're very happy about that. So number one, we recommended that our administration and faculty look into those pedagogical and instructional best practices, which the evidence showed had a really good relationship to eliminating achievement gaps over time. We wanted to do what the research said worked to eliminate these gaps, whatever that was, from a pedagogical and instructional standpoint. Now, a couple of things that we thought at the equity committee level would be promising, and this, Dr. Condon had a lot of input on this, and he's part of our equity committee, were the universal design for learning and more project-based learning. We knew that there was a lot of research behind these approaches that were successful. Second, and this was really crucial, our system itself was not reaching all kids. And we wanted to get professional development that was high-end for our faculty, administrators, and frankly our board on things like implicit bias. I mean, do you as a faculty member not even realize you have some biases against the children in your classroom based on their race, based on their ethnicity? That's an awfully difficult and challenging conversation to have, but crucial. And we wanted to have it the right way, in a positive way with professional development, because the idea is to change the system and make it work for all of our kids, make all of our kids feel welcome, make all of our kids have that rich and deep educational experience we want them to have. So we recommended targeted professional development. And frankly, the professional development hasn't just been for our faculty and staff. Our board has now had 2 trainings at the public meeting level with these facilitators that have challenged us in very unique ways. And we felt it was so important to get this work done that our most recent professional development training for the board, we invited, we're a middle school and elementary school district. We invited the high school district we feed, Oak Park River Forest High School, as well as the other feeder school, feeder district to it, to join us at this professional development. They did. So we had a tri-board professional development on implicit bias that was open to the public. It was a very, very unique event, and really one that helped not just us as board members deal with these really important issues, but helped inform our community as to the wheres and whys of what we were doing, what we were taking on. Finally, we did recommend that our hiring practices change and that we do a better job of diversifying our workforce, faculty and administration, as well as staff. Reasons for that are simple, but I'm going to go to one that everyone should know and everyone should talk about. The research clearly indicates that all children of all races perform better with a diverse faculty. All children. White kids do better with a diverse faculty. Having a diverse faculty is a pathway to excellence. And everyone needs to understand that, and we really need to drive that message home. And I have to tell you, at River Forest, we're going to talk about some of the political hurdles. I know you don't believe there are any political hurdles to doing something like an equity initiative, but there are. And in our community, we have a very conservative, somewhat Republican community. The challenges were real, but we had to let everyone know that this wasn't just some ideological or left-wing or what feel-good approach to education. What we were doing was taking a research-based approach to ensuring that the education offered in River Forest District 90 was of the highest quality possible. And one of the clear pathways to gaining such a high-quality education was diversifying our faculty staff. So we're taking that step. The final thing that we recommended that's not on this board was that the Equity Committee become a standing committee. It was initially formed as an ad hoc committee, but we recommended it become a standing committee so that it can monitor performance of the district over time, create some standards for the district to meet and to measure for showing improvement. Because frankly, what isn't monitored doesn't happen. And so we wanted to build an accountability structure right into our equity initiative. So that's the beginnings of it and where the board played a role. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Condon to talk about the we'll move on from the equity committee to the inclusiveness advisory board.
So much of what Ralph has spoken about already really was focused on the issue that he's already described with concern over different student achievement. Obviously, we're a teaching and learning organization. Student achievement is the heart of what we do. But it became fairly quickly apparent that it wasn't just about the academics. If our organization and our school community really had equity as part of who we were and what we believed in, I think maybe we missed that great vision for equity slide that was up there earlier. We had to talk about climate, and we had to talk about our community. And that's where we realized at the same time, in addition to this Board of Education laser-like focus on the Equity Committee on teaching and learning and student achievement, we needed to look at the community as a whole, and that developed the Inclusiveness Advisory Board. This is a group now of almost 40 individuals, comprised, you can see, of faculty, staff, administrators, community members, parents. This fall, we will be having students join us. And frankly, well, you can see there are some specific areas of focus here that this group has identified, largely through the use of perception surveys that we've administered to students, staff, and parents. This group is about belonging. It's about belonging. And trying to take the steps and have the frank and open discussions that are necessary in a community, some of them hard, to ensure that voices are being represented at the table, that there is a spirit of belonging, that our community is working together to solve kind of the larger issue of making sure that we are all included. Admittedly, one of the reasons, Ralph and I are a little bit of a yin and yang. The challenge, as you can imagine, of this side of the work is its lack of empirical data, lack of our ability to collect the clean metrics. Student achievement can be measured so easily with numeric data. How people feel and the degree to which they perceive that they belong and are part of the school community is much, much softer data to gather. We have instituted, like I said before, some instruments that we're using to try to gather that and measure that over time. But this work is in its infancy, and we know that it's certainly long for work. To do this work well, it became fairly apparent quickly that we didn't have the expertise within our organization. We needed some help. And so the Inclusiveness Advisory Board, some volunteers actually went through, began the process of vetting some external organizations that District 90 could partner with that might be a good fit in order to help us with particularly some of what Ralph mentioned earlier, which is the professional development, stereotype threat, implicit training, implicit bias training. After looking at 7 different organizations, again, we vetted them down, we identified a partner known as the National Equity Project that really seemed to be the best fit for us. The nexus really of NEP's approach to equity work is the idea that each organization, if given the right training and supports, typically has the answers to the questions that they're seeking. And by going through the process of professional development and growth and discussing some of those non-discussables in a way where a context and a framework is provided to do that in a healthy manner and an honest manner, you can dramatically improve the outcomes of the organization. They've been an excellent partner for us. As Ralph has mentioned, we've had a very systematic approach to our training, faculty and staff. Certainly with our Board of Education, we've offered community training events as well. Probably the most robust training has been at our administrative level. There's a lot of research that indicates that when you're embarking upon equity work in the school community, ensuring that your administrative team has had some of the most robust training is really essential to knowing that there's some alignment in equity work within the various schools. So they have probably received the most, but it's ongoing work. And admittedly, some of the challenge of that is that it's work where people are choosing or not choosing somewhat to engage. So part of the challenge for us has been, how do we make choosing to engage the valued option, the default, as opposed to choosing to disengage? And some of the ways we've done that have been, I think, more direct than others. Certainly we have some very specific staff conversations that have been scripted and have been facilitated by the outside with NEP and our administrative team. But we've also looked at some softer things, such as the use of a one district, one book reading experience. And we chose a book that, while it was about equity, it was also about growth, and it was about seeing the best in others. We used the book by Carol Black, Mindset. And our local library supported the One District, One Book event. Our PTO supported the event. Our local YMCA supported the event. And we had a lot of people in the community, staff, parents, community members, students, who were all learning about this one idea, which is an idea that basically at its heart says, we all have the ability to excel, and that we need to see that in ourselves. And, very importantly for faculty and staff, we need to see that in others. The relationships that the adults have with children is essential to doing this work. So up here you see there's kind of a listing within the last 18 months of the training that we've had at the National Equity Project. There has been some challenges, and I think it's really important. I probably should have said this right at the beginning. Ralph and I discussed the importance of this comment earlier on, that River Forest in no way, shape, or form thinks that we have ultimate answers here. If anything, one of the greatest reasons that he and I were excited about being invited to come to your community and listen to you and learn from you is that we would have a chance to build another relationship with an organization that we know values the same things that we do, which is ensuring that all students succeed and achieve. And so, we're hoping that this is a chance to learn from you as you embark on your journey. But it is definitely a journey, and it's long throw work. And I will share with you from an administrator's perspective, one of the reasons that this work is continuing on, and has for several years now, is the commitment of our board. The Board of Education that has a strong governance focus and that realizes that results will come over time, but will not oftentimes be immediately apparent, and certainly will not come if there's not a long-term focus. And dedication to this work being embedded in your strategic planning and in your structures. So how do we maintain these are challenges? How do we maintain the urgency of the work? How do we make sure that people who live in a day and age where we expect an answer or a sandwich immediately will continue to be committed when maybe the initial data doesn't indicate change immediately? How do we, again, make sure that individuals and stakeholder groups find a place in this work, find meaning? Understanding the fact that so much of this moves in tandem has been a really important challenge for us. As a matter of fact, it sounds a little strange, I know Ralph would probably kick me back here, but we've been spending a great deal of time at the administrative level trying to simplify for stakeholder groups the way in which the work moves together. How do the choices you're making pedagogically support or not support efforts towards equity? How do the efforts that you are or are not making to build relationships with organizations, with students, everything as simple as resource allocation, your facilities, the way that you've structured opportunities for learning. If all of these aren't done intentionally, there's a great risk that there's not going to be any benefit that comes from the work. And so to do that intentionally, and then just as importantly, be able to show people how it moves together, to give them a platform to stand on so they can look down, particularly for faculty and staff, and see that these initiatives are not yet one more thing, but instead deliberate elements that will work in tandem to move the work forward, and very intentional. And then, of course, the issue that school systems deal with all the time, avoiding distractions that could take us away from our central work. We've had a lot of conversations, as you can imagine, in our district about saying no. And if the answer is not a clear yes, if the initiative, the idea, the project is not a clear yes that moves us toward what we're seeking, unfortunately the answer has to be no. And that's hard because public schools are looked to be the solution for many things in this location. Some good things have happened. Just over the course of the last year, I talked a little bit about this One District, One Book initiative. The development for faculty and staff is ongoing, and I'm really excited to share that our faculty and staff from the professional development feedback surveys that we've received are really seeing value in the work and finding personal ways now to engage with that. And as Ralph said, admittedly, at first, that wasn't so much the case.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that point. I think it's still more to when we first went to our faculty, especially on the implicit bias training, right? Not just a hard conversation, but our faculty, very high end, very high quality. I'm a great teacher. That was the initial response, and the initial response back after the first professional development was, we're not sure we need this. After the third or fourth time, I think it was the third time, when we surveyed the faculty, the response back from over 90% of our faculty was, oh my God, I had no idea I was doing that. Now I need practice tips to fix my practice and become a better teacher. So you really have to stay on it. This is a difficult process. And you're going to have hurdles every single step of the way. But if you keep your eye on the prize, and the prize is an excellent education for every kid that walks through your door, you'll find ways to overcome these hurdles. A similar hurdle in our community was resource allocation. Everyone views education as a zero-sum game. Well, wait a minute. If you're investing more in those kids' perception of the community, you're taking something away from my kid. No, we're not. We're creating an excellent educational environment for all kids. The Equity Initiative will help all kids. It will result in an excellent education for all kids. You have to push back on it. You have to educate the community. And so to try to deal with some of these things, and I don't know if as board president you ever get a negative email from a constituent. Yeah, I don't shop at the Jewel anymore. Just saying. You're going to get that. But what we decided to do was take it head on. We've now, 4 of our board meetings every year are held as town hall forums. They are not traditional board meetings where you get your 3 minutes as a community member and you sit down and no one responds. It's a back and forth dialogue. There's no time limit. The administration and staff and sometimes faculty are made available along with the board members to answer questions. We are going to be scheduling for this fall sometime, right? A town hall forum that's just a listening tool, where we're just going to say, all right, folks in the community, what are you hearing that you got a problem with about what's going on in District 90? Now, we got to find a professional moderator to make sure this doesn't get out of hand, because Jewel, again, that whole thing. But we have really found that the more we communicate with all members of the community, the more likely it is that we are able to overcome the misperceptions and the obstacles that frequently thwart these efforts over time. So it's not just been the board has been unanimously committed to this. And I have to tell you, we have 1 or 2 board members that are very, 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 but I mean conservative. And once they looked at the research, once they looked at the evidence about what really an equity initiative is about and what it can accomplish for all your kids, they were completely sold. The rest of the folks in the community aren't going to be reading all that research, right? So it's the job of the board and community members that do get informed to work with the rest of the community to get them on board. I think that's a real crucial aspect of being successful. One of the things we did as part of our achievements, I don't know if it's on the list, I think we'll do the back to you list the rest of it, we've done the talk. But we decided to create a tri-board equity committee with us, the high school board, and the other feeder elementary district to the high school. And we are coordinating our equity efforts. We're looking at, for example, pooling our resources and all using the same professional development. We are looking at doing things to make it easier for folks to access early childhood services through all the schools and all the communities. We're looking at creating a history of all the efforts done in each of the different districts over time. In particular, this is a high school issue, but the other elementary districts on equity initiatives, whether or not they failed, if they failed, why they failed, or if they were discontinued just because there was a change in leadership. And you don't even know if the program was working or not. But we kind of wanted to do that inventory and get it done. And we're trying to create an atmosphere where any student from our larger community that ends up in that big high school, Oak Park River Forest High School, has, if you will, an articulation or a continuation of an experience that's positive for that kid. Irrespective of that kid's background, that kid's race, that kid's religion, that kid's ethnicity, that kid's gender. That's what we're trying to get to. So as you can tell, we ain't done yet. There's still a lot of work to do. And it's going to rattle off some of the, well, you did some of that. We're looking forward.
So there are a few. These are ongoing objectives, obviously things that we have to commit to over time. The recruiting and hiring is obviously something we need to remain focused with. I could get into detail if that was important, certainly, but that's a board member's wish. Our Superintendent's Leadership Council has been looking at standards-based grading. While on the surface, again, it may sound like an unrelated initiative, it's not. The way in which students receive feedback about the quality of their performance in class, if that's not done thoughtfully, can be very arbitrary and frankly quite inequitable. We intend to continue our partnership with the National Equity Project, working on establishing some inclusiveness protocols through the Inclusiveness Advisory Board. I can't say enough about this professional development for pedagogy. We are, as an organization, at the point, frankly, where now we've done a lot of the foundational work. What really matters is what's happening in the classroom. Again, the relationship between staff and students is paramount, but on top of that, how are we or are we not providing faculty members with the supports to implement pedagogy that research indicates, evidence indicates, is what's best for disenfranchised learners, or for all learners, as Ralph mentioned. And if we're not doing that, shame on us if we're not supporting teachers to do that. We see in District 90, Universal Design for Learning as a framework that we feel like is a really great fit for us, but there are also elements here of supporting co-teaching, as Ralph mentioned, project-based learning. We are working on trying to establish an equity network with some other K-8 school districts. Obviously, monitoring student performance over time is essential. One of the problems we are having, I'll share with you, and having a terrible time getting our hands around, is creating a performance accountability matrix that we want to use to monitor subgroup performance. We know it's important, as Ralph said, to monitor is what gets done. But the matrix that we've created continues to have imperfections because we don't want it to be just quantitative data. And that is causing our statistician to kind of pull his hair out. He didn't have that much to start with. So the work needs to continue. The journey needs to continue. As I said before, we don't believe by any way, shape, or form that we have all the answers. We may have a few though, and we may have learned some things from our students and our staff that can help us if we stay committed to the work. And we feel like it's really important work we're doing. Excellence and equity go hand in glove. And that's really, at this stage of the game, the message that we want to make sure that all of our stakeholders and our entire community understand.
questions. As Dr. Smith mentioned, we did just institute, we had our kickoff meeting of our new equity inclusion committee 2 weeks ago. So some of those members are in the audience, but we're happy to, please feel free to ask any question that you possibly have. This also goes to board members and staff as well, but we're happy to allow any questions from the floor. On the floor first. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. Any audience, yes? You know what?
I got it.
The question is whether or not the committee is closed. So, so the short answer is yes. But that's still, it's still open to the public and, anyone can actually come. But we're very purposeful in creating an actual committee and finding folks who really wanted to roll up their sleeves and dig deep into this issue. And so we actually had an application process, and we had over 78 faculty, residents, some family, parents in the district who responded. And so it was more difficult than we had expected. And so, we do hope as there is turnover, we do hope we can get back up. But I think there will be committees that are formed as an offshoot of the Equity and Inclusion Committee, so there'll be a lot of opportunities for community members to still become heavily engaged.
Okay, and those meetings, agendas, et cetera, can be found on the board site?
So we just had our first meeting a couple of weeks ago, and so yes, we will do those minutes and we'll make sure that they're posted and we will announce when those meetings are happening.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head the next date of the meeting, but we'll get that up.
Okay. And then my last question was to the presenters. You mentioned that it took about 3 to 4 rounds of surveys for you to see the shift in the responses. I'm curious as to what the frequency was in the survey.
Okay, so the surveys I was referring to, they were surveys we conducted of our faculty after their PD trainings. So they had, every 5-6 months, they got a training and then they were surveyed.
I
We
can
also,
speak- I can
I
speak
mentioned a
loudly.
different survey, but
Once
we
you've
also
got-
do a survey every other year of student, parent, teacher attitudes and stuff.
So I have two. First one might be a commentary, but I heard you reference, preface, I'm not a conservative, but I heard you mention conservatism several times in your presentation, and I'm hoping that you're not viewing that as the initial hurdle or the overall challenge of your community, because I think communities are made up of a variety of different political beliefs, and I understand some of those stereotypes that come along with that, but I just hope that that wasn't.
Yeah, no, but
meaning-
conservative by nature means doesn't like change. So that's really part of the definition of a conservative. And the conservative mindset in our community basically did not want to see any resources changed in their allocation, didn't understand the need to diversify the workforce, didn't understand why we would be so concerned about subset performance of children as opposed to overall the district's performing just fine, etc. So that sort of conservatism we really did have to overcome.
The second question I have is, and I'm not sure if your community faced this challenge. You talked a lot about equity and involvement from the community. How did you, or how do you face the challenge of students who may not live in the community but are brought into the community for the purpose of education? How do you get them involved in the community so that the families or those that are utilizing that system are participating and being part of the overall package that you guys are presenting?
Yeah, so in that regard, we actually are pretty fortunate because our community is a whopping 2.2 square miles. And, it's identified for what it is. So really, while we do have a small percentage of families who maybe are homeless and are educated in our community, the vast majority of them are residents. However, one of the interesting elements that has been, I know, fascinating as a school administrator and probably had some impact for a number of different ways has been the fact that within that 2.2 square miles, outside of the public school district, there are 7 private schools. And while those private schools don't only attract, of course, residents of River Forest, some are private, some parochial, some are affiliated with universities. We also have 2 universities in River Forest, which is very unique. The dynamic at work there is that when you consider the schooling and the options for education, there's really kind of something for everyone. Now, admittedly, those private schools are on a tuition basis, and of course, if you're a taxpayer and you send your child in River Forest, you send your child to private school, you're effectively, you're ponying up because you're already paying your local school taxes. But that's an interesting dynamic, and so we hear different feedback about, and it has caused us to really reflect different feedback about who are our stakeholders. And that has not been as easy an answer to resolve as we might have initially thought. That's one of the reasons, actually, interestingly, for the development and rollout of that One District, One Book initiative. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this concept. It probably in some communities has done really well, and in some communities not so well, but we felt like we needed something where everyone could have one thing in common. And that one thing, that one idea, that one conversation could be served to be a united conversation. It was interesting and surprising to us how our private school partners in River Forest embraced that. It was really great, and encouraged their families to do the same too. So I kind of sidestepped part of your question, but I think it was helpful to know the dynamics.
It's a good round of it.
Yeah. But you felt heavy. Yeah.
So I was just curious. I was listening to you talk about assessment, right, and designing assessment, and there's been a movement now to move away from kind of the multiple choice, fill in the blank, to more performance-based assessment. And in Ed Leadership in February, so pretty recent issue, McTeague he wrote an article kind of about that long-term transfer of knowledge and that being so important for 21st century learners. A lot of our kids coming out being able to take what they know and kind of apply it into different concepts. And so when I was listening to you speak, you were talking a lot about how developing that matrix, right, and the criteria for assessing children in something other than a multiple choice or fill in the blank is really difficult work. And so I was wondering if you could expound on that a little bit for the audience.
I'll take a little bit on the UDL. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that from a board member's perspective and why we were so excited about the universal design for learning as board members as a change in pedagogy. So the universal design for learning really gives the student a lot more power over how to display that student's particular knowledge of the substance area, right? So that the kid could display that knowledge verbally, or they can display it by putting together a short film or writing a story or on a test. But what the UDL does is it actually creates different avenues for students to demonstrate proficiency in a subject. And that's a great thing. The second thing the UDL does that the board all liked, my board and my fellow board members all liked, was it gets students more engaged in the subjects they're learning by having them discuss and solve problems together and literally self-selecting, I'd rather read this book than that book, et cetera, motivating things that get them more engaged in and taking more responsibility for their own education. So these were all things which the evidence indicated helped eliminate these achievement gaps and counter some implicit biases and some other things that can go on in the classroom, and made a very powerful case for the universal design for learning. It also promotes critical thinking, it promotes lateral thought processes, problem solving, those skills that actually matter in a modern economy if you're really going to be competitive out there. There's a number of other things that you should throw in there to change.
So what we were speaking to earlier regarding that performance matrix was really trying to develop an instrument that would help us know that we were moving the ball. And what would that look like? What could an instrument or a matrix, I should say a matrix, performance matrix look like where people would be able to look at it and have some confidence that students were showing progress, not just academically, but from some of the social emotional learning competencies. And of course, as I'm sure you would know, when we try to tie those qualitative and quantitative elements together in one very easy to understand performance matrix, it doesn't play well. The components don't play well. So when you try to consider what are the indicators of students' healthy relationship with school to ensure college and career readiness, well, one of them is attendance. So try to factor attendance rates in with NWA MAP scores on the same performance matrix. It's not clean. We end up using Z-score anyway. So but the experience itself has taught us and opened our eyes to broader conversations about the fact that success is measured in so many ways. And the social emotional component is something that we really don't want to lose sight of. One of the things that was not mentioned here in detail, but I feel like is an important element in this work going forward, is at the elementary level, our continued adherence to the use of our second step social emotional programming, and the advent at the middle level of this year, what I think is a really robust student advisory program that importantly was requested by the faculty. And their request for this largely came from their building leadership team reviewing some of the perception survey data that Ralph mentioned before. This perception survey is administered every other year. It's a homegrown perception survey, so it's administered to students, staff, and parents. But it has, of course, a quantitative component, but a qualitative component too, where kids were able to answer to an open field. And if you ever wanted to see our genuinely dedicated, committed, student-loving faculty and staff upset and realizing that there is a need for the change, let them see student survey data where a child is indicated, or multiple children indicated, that they don't believe there's an adult in the school that they can trust. So when you see that data, what does that do? Now again, the goal is not to hurt feelings, the goal is not to, but if we're having honest conversations, clearly there are at least some children who feel like they don't belong. And that little tagline on the bottom left of the slide about inspiring and level learning for all students, it can't just be lip service. So anyway, that's where this matrix is intending to go. We realize we don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. We may have to settle for something that's imperfect, but it does send a message, I think, to our administrative team, to our staff, and to our community that we want to be held accountable and that that's important.
I think we have time for just one more quick question. Come from an audience member or from a board member or a staff member.
Do you have any objective measurable data showing that you've actually managed to move the needle on achieving gap? Do you have any objective measurable data showing you've actually managed to move the needle on achieving gap?
And not yet, because we just implemented these practices. Really, the recommendations came about 18 months ago. So the practices went into practice 12 months ago. So that's not enough time to see measurable change. But we are, in fact, creating, as Ed said, Dr. Condon said, a matrix to identify those kinds of measurable changes. And we have a statistician that we've retained to help us make sure that our matrix is an effective one, a reliable one. Even though as Ed said, we are driving our statistician a little crazy by having both test scores and those kinds of things which are easily objectively quantifiable in the matrix, as well as some of the social, emotional, and other stuff, which is just as important.
And you realize your district, in the last 3 years, the white students' performance has actually dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
You were rolling this out.
Yeah, but you can't compare the scores from the last 3 years because they're very different exams and they changed the modules. So it's not really a 3-year sequencing that you can compare.
In addition, if you look at the last 3 years, as Ralph said, with the last 18 months being the implementation window, and that those scores are in arrears. So the scores were reported in October for assessments that were administered in March and April.
You're really hoping that this year's Park scores will show some meaningful difference here.
Well, absolutely, we're always hoping for that, but it's not just Park scores. So
What else do you have?
well, so we have the NWEA MAP, So we follow that data, which frankly I feel like is much, much more important because it reflects student growth. We may find that we don't see, as Ralph said, as early as we would wish, all students in subgroup categories perform at the same level as our all student performance rate. But an important intermediary step toward that end will be seeing students growing out in an outsized relationship to the rest of our students. The other thing that's challenging, and if you've had a chance to take a look at our scores, you're very familiar with this, we're very blessed that our students perform at very high levels. And so you have some elements of statistical regression that are work there too. But you know, certainly that makes it's hard to ensure that students that are performing at high levels continue to perform at high levels. And our performance gap, well, we would love to see that, of course, close immediately. We expect it's going to take a number of years to see that progress.
So all of that for at point three. Well, this poor gentleman had a question. So can we give him his question?
Steve always has.
You know what, I asked I'm gonna send a really long email.
We would collect from the board and from our committee.
I tried. I gave it an effort.
And we will send that along, and we'll definitely plan to follow up with some questions. So thank you all. Thank you both very, very much.
Love to stay for the rest of the board meeting, but actually that would be a lot.
Well, you don't say that about your home. Thank you both very much again. Next on the agenda, procedure, we will have audience comments. We have 3 who signed up, and I will move that list around because I know, okay, so the first community member that has signed up is Brian Walker.
Good evening, board, staff, parents. My name is Brian Walker, and I work as a security guard here at Parker. I've been employed here since 2003. I'm also a police liaison for the Rich Township District of 227. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about my qualification. I'm also an Illinois State Police officer. I've been employed for the Illinois State Police for 21 years. I went through some extenuating training for the state police, including force continuums, community-based policing, juvenile training, as well as CIT training. I'm a CIT officer. What that is just helps with mental awareness. We have a lot of different disorders that's out there: bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, a lot of different things that relates to what we're dealing with the children here at Parker Junior High. I watched the last board meeting, and I was kind of looking at it like, what am I looking at? Because some of the things that was spoken about, security, was incorrect. One being that we weren't trained. I have extensive training. I know that there are gentlemen against the wall that have extension training where we have Chicago police officers, Homewood police officers, retired, Flossmoor, state police. We have a lot of experience here at Parker as far as security goes. One of the things that I see here at Parker over the last 4 to 5 years has been a different change in the multiple children that we're dealing with behavioral disorders or deviant behavior. We've addressed it as far as we can, as far as at a security level, but I've noticed that the staff is not getting a lot of support. And when I'm saying a lot of support, I'm saying that they're coming up against walls when they get ready to do with the discipline of children. The language has changed. For instance, I'll just give you an example. The last day I worked here at Parker was last week. We had a situation with a young man who pretty much told us to go to hell. Excuse me, I know we have children here, but some of the language that we're hearing and some of the staff, and then you see the children go back to class after they told you this, that's not right. I've never seen this here at Parker before. So, to further the story, that night I told the staff that I was going to go to work. I had overtime detail. I went out and I stopped the first person, and then sure enough, it was somebody that was in the penitentiary. The man called me, "Sir," he said he apologized for having illegal substance in his car. He was very, very respectful. I was happy to talk with that man because of my experience at Parker that day was so stressful in dealing with the children who are not properly disciplined. We have teachers that are here that have 30 years of experience. I know they're stressed, the security staff is stressed, and I know we live in a different age, a different time, but some of the things that are going on in Park as far as the disciplinary factor, it needs to change. Just for an example, we're coming to the classrooms, and in some regards, the classrooms, the children do not want to leave. And they've learned, this is learned behavior. So they're multiplying. It used to be where we had like 4 or 5 years, we would have one child that says, "Oh, I'm not gonna leave," and you have to speak with them, liaison to them, talk with them to get them to leave the room. Now we're having that on a daily basis. Of children refuse to, and there are no consequences. There is none. I know we are probably handcuffed by certain things as far as law. We're country is moving rule of law, different things with lawyers. I've dealt with lawyers. Sometimes you have to make your own rules, and sometimes you can't just listen to these lawyers. I've dealt with many lawyers, R.G. Pension, Shapiro's. I've been involved in a lot of cases where I've been sued. You're gonna get sued. I'm being sued right now by 2 different individuals that are in the penitentiary, one in Missouri and one in Statesville. Doesn't matter. I did my job the correct way, but I'm gonna get sued. So I'm seeing that we're being handcuffed by, this parent may object to this. If the child has done wrong and they continue to disrupt the educational process, it needs to be addressed. So I just wanted to come here and say also, in the very spot that you sir were sitting, I came in and broke a fight with a person who I believe to this day, and I have a lot of experience with this, would have choked this young man to death. He would have killed this person if I wasn't there talking to him. Okay, and this happened probably 8 or 9 years ago. There are situations where security is there and they're watching out for the children of Parker. And I might add that Parker in the the 161 district in 2003 were ahead of the curve. Now we see what's going on all around the nation as far as not having armed security inside of a school. We're not in here talking about, I'm a police officer. We're making relationships. We're making positive relationships with the children. But it's getting very, very bad as far as the disruption from the children. And these wonderful teachers we have here, it's disrupting the educational process. So I just wanted to come here and just correct some of the things that I saw on the last board member meeting and set the record straight. Thank you.
Thank you, first of all. Discipline starts at home, and that's a huge thing. I want to ask you to expound on something. I just want to make sure I understand. When you say children do not want to leave the room, is it because they're causing a disruption, or is class over and they're hanging around? Can you expound on that?
Yes, ma'am. These are incidents where a child is disrupting the learning process, and a teacher cannot go forth and teach her or his class. So If an administrator is not immediately available, you will call security down to see if we can escort the student down to student services or the offices so the administrators can deal with them. In some instances, if an administrator has been there and security has been there, these students are refusing to leave the room. Now, these are multiple students. Used to be when we have like one or two that we would have, and you would have a rapport with them, and you would know how, well, I call it the Jedi mind trick. You would talk to them and, hey, let me get this kid to leave the room. But now, on a alarming basis, we're having a lot of disruption. And it's not just...
You need specific alarming basis. Can you give me a number? How many times a week?
I'm gonna say, when I first started here at Parker, there were probably maybe 2 or 3 kids that we had to normally deal with. And those kids were fine, a lot of them were fine one-on-one. But now, at Parker, we maybe have, I would say, 15 to 20. And now, when I say 15...
A week, a day? What do you
Oh, no, okay, on a daily basis, there probably would be like maybe 3 to 4, Jim?
Very, very.
About 3 to 4. And it's actually the same ones. So since as security, we've made relationships with these kids. And it may be, we have to play good cop, bad cop. That's what we talk about as a police officer. You may not want to deal with one of us. They may ask for a specific one to come get them. They may say, hey, it's Miss Ruby here today. And you know what? I'll get on the, hey, I'll call her up because she has made that relationship with that particular child. So these children and the language that they use, when they tell you something, you have not lived until these children tell you to, MF and, some of the things that they've said to you. So, I understand that some of these kids are, special needs, but these are sometimes kids that are just, generally they're smart, but they have learned behavior over the last few years, and they picked up on it, and they know how to play the game. So, and I would just like to say that this administration here, they need support in a clear, defined disciplinarian system that will work for everyone here at Parker.
So thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Walker. Before you sit down, and we typically, I didn't go over what the standard rules are for audience comments, but this is a very important topic for us, and even though we don't have discipline on the agenda this evening, okay? We are talking about...
I apologize for that.
No. Oh, no, you are free to bring forth whatever you like to, whatever you'd like for us to hear. But my point is that it's a very important topic that we are all talking about on board level, trying to figure out the best possible solutions. And I personally separate the issue of discipline from the issue of security, because I think we need to be thinking about all the things that impact discipline, and it's not just whether or not we have armed guards or not, right? It's a bigger issue. But my question, if anyone else is going to get up and talk about security or discipline, my question in one sentence, what is your suggestion to the board? What do you think in one sentence the solution is?
I don't think there's just one solution. I think there's maybe a hearing with a meeting and different suggestions that can be put forth to make things better. Because I'm going to tell you, I love these kids here at Parker. They are outstanding kids, and I've met outstanding parents. Some of my friends have children that go here at Parker. I know this gentleman's kids. I love some of these kids. They come here, they brighten my day. But they're a different group of children that need special attention, and they need to build relationships with the staff, but they also need the discipline when they do act out, because they are learning how, and there are more and more that are learning how to be defiant, because they are seeing the other ones get away with different things, and that's not good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, board. Evening, everyone. I prepared a statement, but I'm just going to speak from my heart. I think that a lot of the programs, the inclusion presentation, the implicit bias, I think those are very important. They are. I'm glad that that's been brought up. We do have more and more children who have possibly adverse childhood experiences, which affect the way that their brains are wired, so that the way that they're dealing, the way that they respond to something seems maybe more threatening, or I don't know. I want to address one thing. I think we're hitting on a lot of different things, but I know that clearly research would show that you need clear expectations for students, and you need policies and procedures to enforce and to implement those expectations. And so I'm not here to point the finger at anyone, but the fact is we have had a new administrative team every year for 3 years. Every year for 3 years. So that in itself is going to have an effect on the policies and procedures that are in place and that are communicated between the staff and the administrators, and the expectation of, you know, what should I as a teacher expect to happen if this happens, or how is this handled? And so we do have things that are outlined in the handbook that I consider standards and expectations that we have. But I just think with the change of administration, we're focusing a lot on these important things, but peripheral things in my view. And the most important thing that we really need is we need everybody to be on the same page as far as what are reasonable expectations for our students, okay, and what are our policies and procedures in place that everybody is clear about what the range of possible things that we can do to help students. And I really think that just the day-to-day policies and procedures and everybody being on the same page, that has been lost. And I think that would happen at any school where there's a new administrative team. You know, I mean, I'm not here to point fingers, but I think that we have a lot of people that are concerned. I know that we have frustrated teachers. I'm sure that we have, you know, frustrated administrators and probably a frustrated board. And so clearly, I think any research would show that we need to just communicate clearly with each other about, okay, these are the major obstacles that we face, or things that we need to address. And this is our plan to address those things. And unfortunately, I don't know what that is right now. I haven't heard from leadership, this is what we're going to do. I've heard 3 words, capturing kids' hearts. I've heard that, and I've done some research on that, and that seems to be on, you know, improving relationships between teachers and students, which is vital. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. But I also think that we need to focus on clearly implementing and all being on the same page about how we're going to get these children on the path to success. Okay, we're all here to help children. Okay, and we have some unique challenges. But you asked what my suggestion is. My suggestion is everybody needs to discuss and be on the same page and have clearly communicated to everyone what our policies and procedures are for things that we should expect in a middle school. I'm a middle school teacher. I expect my job to be challenging. I expect it to be challenging, but I also expect that there are things in place that support me and that I can count on, and that everybody knows. I mean, everybody knows their child. Any parent knows that if you have clear expectations and you communicate to your child or to your student, that's better for everyone. Then you don't have the back and forth or the confusion, or this was handled this way, this was handled this way. There are students that are frustrated. There's a lot of frustration, and I just think we need to have an honest, open conversation about what we expect from students, why we expect that, and what we're going to do, what are our policies and procedures to uphold those standards. Because right now, unfortunately, we're not upholding the standards that are set forth in the handbook, really. So that's what I have to say. I think like I said, all these other things they're very important, but the most basic, everybody has to know this is what we expect, and these are the range of things that we have to address these things. It seems very simple. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up is Tom and Barb Haggerty.
Hello, I'm Tom, this is Barb, and we agree with both the gentlemen that got up and spoke before, but I am going to point fingers. It's our administration. It's this year, last year, the year before that. You know, you need to hold these kids accountable. You need to hold the parents accountable. You need to hold, you know, and it's not a racial issue. It's a behavioral issue. It's a discipline issue. It's you know, it's a free-for-all around here. My kid comes home and sometimes he's afraid to walk the hallway. So tomorrow is his last day and he's going to stay home the rest of the year. He's a 7th grader. And that's that. I'm not going to send him here if there's going to be fights in the room next to him or he doesn't know what the heck's going on. He just hears banging off the wall and then he sees the teacher come out crying in the hallway. Unacceptable at any school. At any school. You know, if the kid gets a detention and doesn't have to serve it, what does that show? Because the parents don't make them? That doesn't show anything but lack of respect for all of you and all the teachers and all the parents that send their kids to detention. My kid gets a detention, you better believe he's going to go. So somebody, just like the gentleman said, somebody needs to get the processes and procedures in place and stick with it. You know, we need to know what's going to happen. If a kid does this, then this is going to happen.
Every time.
We said this before, you know, 2 board meetings ago. But then the fights continue and it's such a non-friendly atmosphere here. My kids love the teachers. They have a lot of friends here, but you know what? It's not a safe environment. I don't feel safe sending them here. You know, what happens if some kid, you know, if my kid looks at somebody funny and he cold cocks in the hallway? What's going to happen? I don't know. Is the kid going to get suspended? I don't know. You know, I'm sure you guys don't even know. I need to know that my kid is safe here at this school. And until that happens, tomorrow he's going to turn his assignment and stay at home. You know, we need to support our teachers, our security. We need to support the kids that are here and want to learn. The kids that want to learn, then send them in a separate classroom. For the kids that don't want to learn. You know, we love our community, but we are absolutely thinking of putting a sign in front of our house and selling it. Absolutely. You know, we're done with the lack of discipline, the lack of following through. You know, we'll see. There's a week left. If something doesn't change, we're out of here.
But I hold you responsible because you've been here a year and nothing has gotten better. In fact, things have gotten worse. And there's nothing in place to make any changes. And these kids are out of control.
And if there is something in place, let us know.
Yeah, we would like to know.
Put it on the internet. Send a message home. Send something home saying, you know what? We're working on it. We're doing this. We're doing that. Because right now, all we know is what moms and dads at home in Flossmoor have to say. You know, and that's Facebook BS too. You know, people are arguing back and forth. That's why I say it's not a racial issue. It's a discipline behavioral issue, and it needs to be fixed with you guys, with the previous administrators, with the ones before that.
But we need to do it now because you're losing families. Your young families are not going to come into our community. There's a lot of talk about the problems at Parker, and it's bad. And you know, you're going to lose property value. Once you get that, once it's down, you can't get that back. So that's all on you.
because that's your job. My job is to parent. I send him to school for 6 hours a day to learn, not to come home and tell me that there's a banging against the wall and the teachers are screaming and crying in the hallway. That's terrible.
That's an unsafe atmosphere.
Yeah, that's ridiculous that I have to put my kid in that position. So that's on you, and you need to do something. Not over the summer. You know, how are you going to keep our kids safe for the rest of the school year? My son doesn't feel safe walking the halls from class to class. That is ridiculous. We're talking about children. These are children. And I'm thoroughly disgusted.
So hopefully, we're kept abreast of what's going on. I mean, that's what I again, if it doesn't get fixed, we're gone. You know, well, where to go, we don't know. You know, I'm sure River Forest has their own problems. You know, we didn't hear them talk about any discipline. And I think that's key. Once you fix the discipline, then maybe the kids can come here and learn. That's what they go to school for. They don't come to school to get in fights or to worry about who's, you know, doing what, whatever. You know, that's what I got to say. I think you guys really need to get this together before next year. I think it needs to be gotten together sooner than later, because you're going to lose a lot of families, and we're going to be one of them. And we have 6 kids, and the youngest 2 are going here now. And you know, we do want to stay here, but you got to get the school fixed. We have 2 more years here. It's got to be taken care of.
Thank you both very much for your So now we will continue to move to the
I have a
rest of our...
question.
I'm sorry?
Do we have teachers crying in the hallway? Because I didn't get an email about that. Do we have unruly, I'm sorry, but we have a police officer that's comparing children to felons and saying that the felons...
If you're going to speak, would you please come to the microphone?
All right. I wasn't going to speak, but this is a little ridiculous.
My name is Derek. I'm a parent. I'm also a neighbor, direct neighbor. So the longevity of the health of this school is extremely important to me because I don't plan on moving. I'm staying here. So, do we have teachers in the hallway crying?
Yeah.
No, I want to know from them. They're not answering. You sit there and you shake your head, but I'm not hearing anything.
The answer is yes.
Why? And if you know that, why does it continue?
So I specifically learned of that last week.
Okay.
There have been a couple incidents in the last 2 weeks that I think all of us would agree are not.
I haven't received an email.
I
haven't received a letter. When there was a gun found in the school at the high school, I got a letter.
We are not going to send you an email every time another student does something wrong.
Right? You have children that are afraid to walk the hallways. I mean, this isn't a one-off. This seems to be a pattern. And you ask, what should they be doing? Setting expectations. I know I cut you off, and I apologize.
It's okay.
But
just whether it's a pattern, I think, is a subject of people could reasonably disagree on. Certainly,
you didn't need this police officer saying it's a pattern.
Look, I've been a board member for
One
a year.
person?
I've been a board member for a year, and I can tell you, I have never received a single phone call, not one word from anyone until about a week and a half ago. So now I'm playing catch up. But, you know, so the board can only move as quickly as we learn information. Okay, so I would like to hear from everyone, and privately get off, I'd like people to call. Not a word. So, I question whether, I think the pattern might be a little bit overblown, but there's certainly specific incidents in the last 2 weeks that have come to my attention that teachers were crying in the hallway or to their classroom. And it's a serious problem, and I'm not the only board member who's had conversations with the administration about it. We're looking into it. But my knowledge of this is about 2 weeks old.
So my concern is this. Something posted on Facebook might be going wrong. The gentleman who's trained for 20 plus years, who's working with others, professionals that are trained, who are recognizing these behaviors, that's not Facebook posts. That's not overblown. That's someone who has knowledge and experience saying to you, please, we need to do something. So to take the approach and say that it may be overblown and that all you know of is a few incidents, I think is a little short-sighted. And I hope that the board decides, and I hope you as my neighbors decide that there's some more value to put time and effort in figuring out what's going on. Because, you let these kids loose out of school early. They go to the park, they hang out, there's no parental oversight, right? And at that point, the teachers are done. You guys leave, and the people in the neighborhood, based on the behaviors that you're fostering in this environment, carries out into the community with no teachers, no administration, no supervision. So tolerance, that's the answer, and consequences. Low tolerance level, consequences. We have a low tolerance for your inappropriate behavior, and there are consequences associated with that. What those consequences are should be decided by the parents and the community. They shouldn't be negative, they shouldn't be punitive, but they need to be something. You can't just have willy-nilly going on. And that's what I'm hearing tonight. My daughter comes home and reports issues. That happens, it's the end of the school year. But this doesn't sound like it's in the last 2 weeks. This sounds like it is more and more of what they're seeing on a regular basis. So that's my concern.
So thank you very much. And all of you that, I don't think there's a member of the board right now who does not think that we have a discipline issue that we need to address. So I thank you, Mr. Walker, for coming today and speaking to us. This is the first time we've actually heard from a member of security. So I appreciate that. So we are not taking this lightly. I have children, I have 4. My son's actually, I know he's not going to be happy that I'm pointing him out, but my son actually in the audience right now. And so, believe me, I hear a lot, probably more, stories than you do about what goes on a daily basis. And so when I hear a parent who says that their child is afraid to go to school, that does more to me than you know. And so it is our responsibility as a board and administration to figure out the best solution for the discipline problem. But as Mr. Nelson just said, some of it we are now learning about, but we are not taking it lightly. And so we will be working together to figure out how to address this for the remaining of the school year, but also make sure we have something in place for next year.
We did have a big meeting in March.
We did have a big meeting in March, yes. And I actually thought that there had been follow-up from that big meeting in March. And I only just recently learned that I don't think that there had been. So I now know. So are there any other comments before we move on?
So actually, I'd just like to address a couple of things. Really certainly appreciate all the parents being willing to share. Really took some good notes around our response to this, and we're not going to suspend our way out of this problem. We have to be careful of the coded language of meaningful consequences. We can't go back to an if A then B. It disproportionately affects a number of our students. Meaning, if you say this, then you're suspended for 3 days. And it's illegal. We have to have a holistic approach at Parker that addresses not only the student responses, but the adult responses, our environment in general. We're going to start with Capturing Kids' Hearts in the fall. That's a program that will be implemented in every classroom, every day, every period, without fail. That's an expectation. We will have clear behavior expectations for the students that are shared and communicated across the building, frequently discussed with children so that there is no mistake about what we expect out of all of our Parker students. We're adding a social worker to the building. That person will, and I actually just had the interview this morning, going to be a fabulous staff member, really focused on students who need formal supports through the special education process, but also students who just need to talk, students who need to de-escalate, students who maybe they are headed for a bad day, but there's an opportunity to get them on the right track. We have to teach directly social and emotional learning standards, and we will teach those every day next year. We'll provide the information, we'll provide the curriculum, and we will make sure that we are educating the whole child. We'll continue to work on restorative consequences, or restorative practices, I should say, at all of our elementary buildings. I feel fairly confident that those practices are secure. 6th grade has really taken some initiative this year as far as the training on the restorative practices to make sure that they can implement those. We will look to implement at 7th and 8th grade next year. And finally, we will clarify our consequences. I can tell you, we will never go to an if A then B. It'll never be, if you do this, you'll be suspended for this number of days, or that just doesn't work, and it's not compatible with the law. But we can make sure that we have clear policies. We can make sure that we have clear procedures that are implemented without debate and with fidelity. Okay? So it's a comprehensive issue. It's something that we are focused on continuously. But in order to move forward, it will require the change of a number of people, a number of spaces within this building, and we're committed to that. We will make sure that we're not having these conversations again next year.
Dr. Smith, if I could. You don't have to, obviously.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, make one more comment, and then if we are feeling like there's a need to, I think there was someone who suggested having a forum, a conversation specifically around this issue. I'm happy to make that happen, but go ahead.
I think restorative justice, I've heard that a lot, and when we spoke before, and I said that I'm a 6th grade teacher, and you said that the 6th grade team has really made a lot of strides with restorative justice. For my personal experience, what that has entailed and has been, on Mondays we have a peace circle, and I come up with a topic, a question, and let students share what they think about certain things and give them a voice. It has not been, from my experience, I haven't seen from any of our presenters from Governor State or from any of the experts that we've had in how to implement restorative justice practices other than a peace circle, such as like if a student does this, this would be a good way to handle this in a restorative justice manner or approach. So I hope that we can get some further guidance on how to better implement restorative justice, because as it is right now, in just my opinion, it's limited, and I hear it a lot, but I don't see it a lot. So thank you. I appreciate you didn't have to let me speak.
I think that's a very valid question. Next up on the agenda, Community Engagement Committee.
No problem.
Equity and Inclusion Committee. There's no official report from the Equity and Inclusion Committee. We talked about it during the presentation. The next meeting is scheduled for June 14th. June 14th at 6 o'clock. The next item on the agenda, the superintendent's report.
Sure, well, I did have a brief introduction for Mr. Martieri and Dr. Condon, but we did a good job on that, so they're already said, I'll skip that part. But just wanted to take a moment, last week I had the pleasure of emceeing the recognition tea for our District 161 staff members. There were a ton of laughs, too many hugs to count. It was just a fun celebration over at Wiley's. This is the last Board of Education meeting before the end of the 2017-2018 school year. And I just wanted to say thank you and good luck to our retirees, Carol Kroll, Bill Megason, Pat McCraven, Martine Phelps, Gina Punda, and Nina Sabi. You can give them a round of applause. We really are losing an amazing group of educators, but we certainly wish them only the best as they move on to the next chapter of their lives. And that's the end of my report.
Dr. Smith, until Michelle gets back, I'm going to suggest that we take a 5-minute break. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. I stepped out for a minute.
We have a number of items that fall under discussion, and there may be discussion, and there may not be discussion. I'm sorry. Yep. So we will try and move through this as quickly as we need to. The next item on the agenda, consent agenda. There's one item. Can I please have a motion to approve the personnel report? So moved. Ms. Huckabee, Mr. Nelson, roll call please.
Huckabee?
Yes. John, still there?
Yes.
Nelson's here.
Okay, Nelson? Simmons?
Simmons? Yes.
Yes. Paredes?
Yes.
Briggs? Yes. Moore?
Yes, and the motion has passed. Next item for discussion, school safety planning.
Just wanted to take a moment to bring this topic back. We've talked about it the last few board meetings, and we're still continuing our discussions. Again, we don't have to make any snap decisions now. We always want to be proactive and to be prepared for really as many situations as possible. The safety staffing conversation though is really focused on two areas: internal threats and external threats. Starting with external threats, again, that's somebody trying to get into the building to cause a serious disruption or harm. Currently, schools really have no meaningful way to actively respond to a crisis of this type. Certainly, we do have the Blue Point alert stations. We practice our code reds and lockdown drills, and we do have crisis plans in place to direct the responses from students or adults, but we're not going to actively intervene in one of those situations currently. One active response would be to have an off-duty police officer in the building. That person would be armed. We would anticipate a cost of $29,000 or $30,000 per officer. I think it's really important to iterate, and I will do this every time, this person has nothing to do with discipline. These are not disciplinary conversations.
Just clarify that I do think, and to build on what you said, I think there needs to be a very, very clear distinction between external safety of our students and climate and culture, umbrella, student management / student discipline issues. Because I think that that's something that people kind of squish together, I think as we've heard a little bit earlier, where, they're, from my perspective, completely different functions
Is there
inside.
anyone on the board that disagrees? Just because I agree, not everyone has attended our meetings, but I had the impression from our prior discussions that the board as a whole is in agreement 100% with the superintendent on this, that internal and external security are separate issues.
Okay, yes.
So this is, it's clear to the public, we are all in agreement that on the one hand, we have the question of off-duty police officers, and on the other hand, we have safety agents. Those are two separate issues. I think we're all on the same page, but please speak up if we're not.
To that point though, I would just, even though it's written in this one document where we have things referring to both, my suggestion would be that we take some effort to, even on the agenda, make a very clear distinction. This is one subject, and now we're moving on to a completely different subject, which people frequently associate one with the other. Because I think even our, the earlier comments, that was a complete mishmash of perspectives on both. And I think that for the sake of clarity, and being thoughtful and intentional about how we address each separate issue, that might be it might be more productive if we can separate that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any questions on, the response to an external threat? Again, the school in Santa Fe had 2 police officers in their building and still suffered a major tragedy. So this report doesn't focus on preventing necessarily as much as it does mitigating or limiting the damage from any potential crisis. I think really that's the way we have to think about it. As we mentioned, we have never had a situation where we've activated our Blue Point alert stations on purpose. We've had false alarms, but we've never activated them because of an external threat in our schools. But you have an estimated cost. We look to encumber $145,500 to add off-duty police officers to the buildings, and that, again, it would be an estimated cost. Are there any questions?
So I do. If you had to say what their responsibility was, what is a typical day for an off-duty police officer who's charged with responding to external threats? What does a typical day look like?
Well, I think that's where I struggle with this concept, because their typical day is sitting in a room waiting for something to happen. We can't be too clear about the separation between an off-duty police officer and anything that happens in a school. The second police officers start intervening in school issues, the research is clear that it does generate a school-to-prison pipeline for our Black and brown children. It does. We cannot move down that path. And so if we did look to add off-duty police officers, again, I liken it to like a backup sump pump in your house. It honestly just sits there. If your basement floods, that backup sump pump is going to turn on and potentially stop a bad situation from being worse. 99.9% of the time, it does absolutely nothing.
Do we have an appropriate room? Sorry, just to follow up. Do we have an appropriate room in each of our 5 schools where this person would sit?
We would have to probably manufacture something somewhere. Office space can be hard to come by in some of the buildings.
And so, could you also, schools that are similar to ours in south suburbs, junior highs, do they have, and elementary schools, do they have this type of position in all of their schools?
No, they do not have internal security guards either.
And so, what is the issue or the problem that off-duty armed security guards will solve for our district?
Somebody trying to break into one of our schools to harm children, to cause a major disruption. In our last meeting, we shared the distance from all of our schools to the police stations. I think Serena Hills and Chicago Heights was the furthest at about, I believe it was just under or just over 2 miles. So really the external threat response is a safety blanket response. There are no current threats to respond to, but again, until there is a situation, you hope that these people are the most bored people on the planet. But again, that's part of the challenge of allocating what's almost 3 teachers' salaries.
To provide an example, a few weeks ago, a month ago, we had angry parents and families force their way to an office at Margaret. So, were we in agreement that would be an appropriate situation for an off-duty officer to respond to?
Yes.
Okay. And so, what was the Flossmoor Police Department's response time, if you know?
I don't know. I can try to find out.
And
Immediate.
yeah, and so that's my take on this. And I know Mr. Simmons is somewhat handicapped. He expressed it on the phone. He expressed in an earlier meeting he would support armed security guards at each school. I do question the dollar value of it, and I question whether it needs to be the same in each school. Parker is 1,000 yards from the Flossmoor Police Department. Depending on where this individual is sitting and where a potential bad school, I am not sure the actual response time is going to be any different. At the same time, you know, if there's strong community support for it, and they understand that when we start having discussions with tax levies next fall, this alone, you know, when we talk about a 3% tax levy extension, this alone is the kind of thing that would make, you know, some of the community want us not to take a 2% CPI extension. Something like this is expensive enough that that would make that conversation possible. I think, you know, we would have to take an extension next fall to cover something like this. If the community understands the financial impact on their tax bill, then they want it. I personally don't feel so strongly about it in a way that, you know, I would say yes or no. If I want to pay for it, okay, it is unusual, right? I don't think very many elementary schools anywhere have armed police officers. Just typically at high school you find that. But, you know, I would lean towards no, but I don't know what's slightly interest.
Well, I would agree. I don't think there are a lot of elementary schools that have armed security guards. And I think whether or not we think the community would support it, my question would be, what exactly is the community supporting? Because what I'm hearing from the community is that it's the internal issues that are out of control, not the external. And so an armed security guard, from the way it was just described, deals with the external.
I agree that all the individuals I've heard from said yes, you should have armed security guards, said in the context of they want discipline standard from school. And I haven't heard from anyone that really is viewing it as protection.
Right, I mean, and so I think we need to be very thoughtful, and we're not going to cover it all tonight, but we need to be very thoughtful about what it means to have an armed security guard walking in the halls with our K through 5 kids. But I think, to me, the bigger issue is internal security and how do we manage that and coupled with the discipline issues. And again, I think that they are issues that we need to talk about. They're not mutually exclusive, but the discipline issue is not just about whether we need armed security and whether or not we need more security aids. I mean, we have to have a really candid conversation about the discipline issue and how do we start to address that and tackle that. And putting just more bodies in the building, that's not the only solution. So, to me, I am personally, I do not want to see armed security guards walking through my kids' kindergarten hallway. I just don't. I don't, and I don't think that solves the problem. That does not mean that we should not have security people in the building that are not trained to handle external factors. I don't know what that means. I don't know what different titles mean. I don't know what different descriptions mean. You know, I know that not every security guard in high school is armed. So I need to increase my own intelligence about what's possible in the world of security in terms of training and what does it mean to be an A. But I have to go back to what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Are we saying that if we have more bodies, more adult bodies that are trained in security, there'll be less fights? Right, I mean, so I just want us to be clear as we are working through this, that the issues are very complex and it's not a one solution that will solve all of these pieces, especially if we're not clear on what the pieces are that we're trying to solve.
Can I then ask, are you suggesting that maybe we shift the focus, immediate focus, or prioritize focus away from solving the external possible threats and look more in terms of student discipline?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, I just heard.
I would, I'm not sure. I would be okay with us taking the time we need to work through how do we deal with external threats to our district, right? What does that mean and what do we need to have in place? None of us are experts in that, so I don't know whether or not there's even, consulting we can get on that. I do think, however, that our discipline issue and how we handle internal, what manifests from our discipline issues, how we manage that internally is a huge issue. And so whether that's adding more security aides, giving them training, calling them something different, I don't know what that looks like, but that to me sounds like the bigger issue.
So I think we've got, so we're not getting the agenda tonight, but I think that on the armed security guard issue, I hear you asking for more consulting. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm of the opinion that we have all the information we're ever going to have on that. I think we need to move it forward to a decision one way or another soon, just for planning for next year. But
I don't disagree with that.
On the discipline issue, to use, we heard from one of our security personnel today. So first of all, I mean, credit to Dr. Smith that he's been attentive to this issue. I know that he's been mentioned it to us as early as January, February, that there are questions about whether the security staff is working or the way we hope that it would. And I think that we really have some personnel that are very invested in the school. And I think that discussion has shifted from should we replace them, should we keep some of them, should we train them. So I think we're still to that. But there's a specific thing missing from the equation, which is had a lot of discussions over the last week. Dr. Smith and I were with teachers last Friday, and no one has told me yet what, I don't know what that security guard is supposed to do with a student who refuses to leave the classroom. And so, I mean, there's a specific problem that seems to me should have been addressed at the building level. Those discussions should have had at the building level. It seems like they're not happening, but it seems unacceptable to me that we're having, at least on a daily basis, to hear the gentleman who spoke earlier, students disrupting class for other students. And it's that kind of qualitative thing. I know that we struggle with this issue because people want to say we have a discipline problem, and I think our administration has pushed back to, well, numerically it may not be true, and that's a valid point. But there's a qualitative distinction there. Someone who's in the classroom being disruptive, refuses to leave. I don't think there are any parents in this community who think that's acceptable, and I want to hear what the solution is, and I'd like to hear it awfully soon. That doesn't seem like the sort of thing that should be left unanswered. So I think we're missing direction from someone within the administration about how we're going to handle these problems.
If I could, I think that this is what I got from hearing feedback, and again, this is an issue that I've heard forever. I mean, I go back 35 years, and refer to this is Parker. First fight I got into when I moved here, because some kid was picking on me in art class, and it moved to the outside, and it was not uncommon. When I was a student. And it turned out that this kid, years later, I met this guy's dad, who's a very wealthy, finance person. And he just decided he was going to be a jerk to me that day. He could have jerked out. But, 13 years ago when I moved here, I heard, Parker is, it's getting rough, or and it's really, I think, in some degree, a reality of middle school that, as my old boss, Brother Steve, used to say, some kids just don't know how good they can be. But also, it's that every 3 years, the students who may really get that expectation move on. The families that, are the families of the parents of these kids and the families support these kids, they move on too. But I think we really need to expand this expectation. It's the expectations, I think, that are perhaps unclear, just even from some teachers, who may have a completely different expectation of what the policy means from the next teacher in enforcing that, and whether they're the nice teacher or the strict teacher or this other teacher. And certainly at a parent level, all of us parent differently for our kids because they're our kids. We have different expectations of what things look like. My wife and I sometimes disagree about what our kids should be doing and what we said, as an expectation should be observed. And I think that one step might be to have a common understanding of what things actually look like. Because I think the policy has been clear. I think it just comes down to perhaps, and again, this is a perhaps, that people differ on what they think something means based on their values and something else. And
But that's the problem, right? That process should be going on in the building.
I agree.
When
It's
the
also
teachers
community
see
level.
a behavior, and if they don't feel that their team is supporting it, they should be having a conversation. And then we're hearing that conversation, for whatever reason, is not going on. And I think there's going to be frustration and fatigue on all fronts, and that's maybe why it's not happening. But,
Sure.
So,
I'm not denying that that's the frustration. It's clearly there's a frustration. And I can say that, yes, in the last, since I've been here, I think there's been 4 different principals. There's been a number of different administrators. It's been a whole group of kids that's come through, including people who have roots in community since. And, we have a teacher. So this is an ongoing process of building an understanding that, it's not going to happen overnight. But, I think that certainly it's something that does need to be addressed. And I'm of the mind that, no acting out in class is acceptable. And I say this as a teacher, where I don't want any acting out in my class in any of the places I've taught, including the Juvenile Detention Center for Cook County, where I started, Indian Oaks Academy, that works with a lot of juvenile sex offenders and other very troubled kids. Bloom High School, where I've met some of the best kids I've ever met. HF, where I've taught intermittently in the summer or in the summer. It's just something that I think really needs to have a very common, clear expectation, and that's implemented, carried out consistently from everybody. And that also I think ties into the equity. I don't think anything is entirely separate from anything else, but I think the common element here is expectation and us learning very clearly what someone else is thinking about this and then bridging that gap.
So I guess my question then is back to Dr. Smith, what do we do next, right? So I think I agree with you, I support you, I expect that my fellow board members support you on that there's a problem with having strict behavior and consequences. But at the same time, and again, all you tell me if I'm wrong, but a kid who says F you, the teacher in the classroom, wants to leave the classroom, right? There's no question about that. And a kid who's been told to leave the classroom for whatever reason must leave the classroom, right? Even if later it turns out the teacher may have been wrong. I mean, the school cannot function if there's not some minimum of respect, and that appears to be missing in at least a portion of the student population. So how do we fix that? Because that seems to be missing.
Sure.
Before you answer that, in conjunction with what you're saying, I also want to hear in a possible solution of how do we get the staff, the teachers, the support that they need to help with this issue as well.
Sure.
And I think that
What do you mean support?
Well, when we have teachers crying, when I hear that piece, it's weird because I had a discussion earlier today with someone who subs here and was talking about this very issue from a standpoint of the teacher. And I'm hearing it, and it's very clear that I'm believing there is some support that is needed. Don't know what all those pieces are, but I'm thinking that we need to hear from those, from the staff members as well, because I think there's some voices that we need to capture from the teachers as well.
Sure. So I think there's a couple of challenges that we have to overcome. One is the implementation of policies and procedures. You're right. If you curse at a teacher, it's not going to take a walk, right? We cannot accept behaviors like that under any circumstances. It just will never happen. But the first time you let it slide, you mentioned fatigue. Those behaviors start to pick up. We have to get better at changing our environment. We're not changing our kids. We have kids who come to school excited. They may have different barriers between them, their excitement, and their ability to learn in our classrooms. But that equity conversation tonight is about breaking down the walls for those children based on the issues that they bring with them to school on a daily basis. So you might have a kid who refuses to leave a classroom because they're having an anxiety attack and it manifests itself in an unhealthy way. You have to remove that class. Teachers should take their everyone here has a Chromebook. Go teach somewhere else. Get the crisis team in there to de-escalate that child. If they won't leave, then at that point, it's either security or police. We have to move on. Other kids have rights in our district to a high quality education, and we have to apply that. We'll always err on the side of holding on too long. This is what we do. And we will always try that extra intervention when maybe we should not have. But I think that's part of the process. So that's generally working through children who are refusing to leave the classroom. This is hard emotional work. There are behaviors we've never seen. And children with experiences that are really hard to fathom. And those come out in different ways. And you mentioned the teacher support. I think that's absolutely critical. Part of it is training. We talked about expectations for students. We have to have clear expectations for teachers. Mean what we say and say what we mean. We have to provide them with the support on the material end for our social emotional learning curriculum. We have to provide the training on the capturing kids' hearts and the coaching to get that done, but also the feedback on how to improve. Mr. Grimrod mentioned, they get started with some restorative practices, but now what? Right? So there really hasn't been a clear plan. Where's the 3-year plan? What's the 5-year plan? This is work that truly has started before a number of us have been here, but now we have to decide if we're going to carry it forward. If we are, what commitments are we going to make to the teachers so that they know, right? This is our plan, we are working this, we just hit a little hurdle, we need to readjust, but we're still moving forward, we've got your backs, and this work is important. Does that kind of get to your point?
It does, but if I'm a frustrated teacher, I've been dealing with this student, I've been dealing with this interrupting the learning process of other students. And I don't know what the reason for the teacher being outside that room crying. I don't know how many teachers have sat there and, if any, and have continued to deal with this. It's like hitting your head up against the wall. We've got to put some supports in place. And yes, you're hitting upon it, but we've got to put something stronger in place. And perhaps it is the consequences. Perhaps it is hearing from these teachers what are they experiencing in the classroom and hearing their voices as to what they are experiencing on a day-to-day basis and where they may be able to come to the table with some possible solutions and some suggestions as well.
Sure.
So I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that where we had proposed having a subcommittee to help think through the discipline and safety issue. I almost think that we do need that because we can't wait until next month to have this conversation. And we need folks who are committed and dedicated to sort of working through these hard issues and hard questions, and it just can't happen on a month-to-month basis. No, it's not okay if you've got teachers crying. It's not okay if you've got kids saying, inappropriate things to teachers. It's not okay that, no one is feeling supported. I hear it from a variety of different people in all different types of ways on a regular basis. And so, yes, some of this junior high school, of course, right? We all probably can tell our own stories about middle school, as you just did. But there are certain things that have been said that are quite alarming, and I think we need to pull apart the discipline issue, the safety issue, and I think we need to have a special offshoot subcommittee to help sort of think through this.
What are we looking to have them accomplish? Because that's where my only concern is that having a group to recommend consequences and responses to behaviors can be problematic. So.
That would not be what I'm recommending. What I am recommending is instead of having another month pass where we're still trying to figure out, so what's a security aid and what's a security guard and what do we need? What is the problem that we are trying to solve? Is it a discipline problem? Okay, so what do we have in place that supports? So I don't think it's the board's job to come up with what the consequences are, but it is the board's responsibility to figure out how to move through these issues because we're stuck. And we have been, and it's not just today, we have been in the exact same place for as long as I have been on this board, for as long as I have been in this community. Discipline, we always stop right here because we can't move through these issues and have these candid conversations. I don't even know what the whole discipline issue is at Parker. But when we had a presentation, it was on current data. I have absolutely nothing to compare it to. I don't know what last year looked like. I don't know what the year before that looked like. So it's hard for me to even have a real conversation about discipline because I don't have a full understanding of what the problems are. Everything that I know of is anecdotal.
So then I would say before then we go down that route, I don't think 4 kids every day at Parker refuse to leave their classroom. I don't think so. And I don't know if that's what he said, but I want to be careful that we have the accurate data and that we understand why this is happening at all.
Because otherwise we don't understand.
But I would say even before we have a committee, let's gather the data that we need, or let's have it, even if we have to have another, board meeting, however you want to do that. But I think I want to really understand what's happening, because here's the thing, and I want to caution us about the narrative that we're wrestling with. We had all these wonderful things that we celebrated tonight, right? The geography, the math. So there are some really great things that are happening, and there's not a constant disruption, so much so that kids are not able to be successful, right? We can acknowledge that there are some great things that are happening too. So I just want us to be careful as we really clearly look at what's happening so that we can clearly respond to what the actual problem is. And whether it's more teacher support, student support, whatever it is, I just want us to be clear on what the actual problem is.
I would be complete support of us getting more data so that we can understand. I also agree with the narrative. When we instituted a new discipline policy a few years ago, it was really for a very small percentage of students in the school. So I think, Cameron, you made this comment about you thinking some of this is blown out of proportion. But people's perception is their reality. So I don't want to devalue what anybody thinks or feels about what's happening in their space. But I feel like we have to increase our own intelligence in order to figure out how to support so that we can move past this. I really don't want it to be August and this is still on the agenda and we can't figure out what to do.
So if I could, I agree, I'd love to have more data, we're not gonna get that much more. Dana and I did meet with teachers on Friday, and we both had long notes from that meeting, and we haven't circulated them yet just because of the holiday weekend and we had a bunch of things. We have a qualitative sense, but I feel of what's going on here. And so my suggestion is start discussions if we have a committee, what are the goals? I believe there is some administrative triage that needs to happen in the next 2 weeks. I don't care what happens in the form of a board committee or not. I think you need a board member in the room so that to the extent there are disputes between teachers and administration, the board member can say, force, whatever. I find it, we need teachers to leave school with hope for the summer. We're just gonna have work to do over the summer. But I find it unacceptable that a teacher, what I'm hearing from some teachers, and again, we hear from people who are complaining, but that they don't know how to get a student out of their classroom is unacceptable. That they are, that they're uncertain about certain key discipline issues, what they're supposed to do, and what they expect in response is unacceptable. So for whatever reason, people are busy, whatever, those conversations have to happen. They need to happen. They need to happen soon. I want our teachers to leave for the summer with a sense of both their administration and their board are listening to them, and we're all going to work together to write our stuff. So,
But is there anything that would prevent Damon and you finding that out immediately tomorrow? What is the confusion and what should happen? I mean, would there be anything like?
Again, I think that's part of the challenge, right? Because you are able to consume a lot of information that's shared, and it may not provide every viewpoint or perspective on an issue. And I think that's part of the challenge of any time you look at discipline issues. Coded language around discipline so for example, comments like, we need meaningful consequences. Well, if you have a student that you conferenced with, and then you've implemented a peer mediation activity where they had to sit with the person that they harmed and rebuild that relationship, and then they wrote, apology notes, and then they're going to verbally apologize to a staff member, we've had situations where that's not called meaningful. Right? That is the most meaningful consequence that I can think of, or I should say response to behavior. The challenge becomes breaking through the nuance in the code to get to stringent, right? If, there are concerns, if we hand out a detention and then the student doesn't come, it's rescheduled, now all of a sudden it's a Saturday school detention, student doesn't come, and then now we're supposed to give them an in-school.
fundamentally, so the tension is there, I get it. But
Sure.
the bottom line is, the administration and the teachers have not sat down and worked this out
Right.
on an
Absolutely.
exclusive basis. And that's fundamentally, that is the problem. The teachers aren't clear on what the administration, there's a lot of misinformation too, right? They think a kid hasn't been disciplined when they have. That's another issue that needs to be addressed. So,
Particularly there's a communication right and to Tim's point, I agree. I think that there's an urgency. So there are
Yes.
some immediate steps that do need to take place before we close our doors. The question is maybe David, you could speak to what you think we can do immediately.
Well, I think immediately we can, and again, this is a Parker's focused issue.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is, continuing that communication line. That's one of the themes that has really kind of come through. There have been a number of communication and relationship breakdowns in the building. I think we can, again, we have 7 days. It's going to be a little bit difficult it's going to be really difficult to do anything but really set a good foundation, right? And develop some more of that trust. So it's getting here, talking to students, talking to teachers, gathering, frankly, information. We talked about getting a district leadership team up and running. This was right in that wheelhouse. To start, to look at discipline, because it's manifesting at Parker, but in theory, it's an issue from before, they get to 6th grade. So I think there's a number of different things that we can do over the short term to make sure that all of those issues and steps that I laid out earlier are in place by the first day of school.
And again, this is, I've been trusting in what you're doing. I think that you've been doing a lot. And again, I keep going back to this is not something that just popped up this year. I've heard this every year. And I think I like the district leadership team idea, because I was just thinking also that, the kids don't just magically pop out of thin air and then all of our, really great kids at all of our schools suddenly disappear and later they show up in high school. These are kids who come from our feeder schools. There's expectations that they grow through. Granted, kids turn 10, something happens to them. In terms of they just go through puberty, they change, lots of things are happening. I do think we need to stretch this as a bridge across, junior high school, middle school, whatever we're calling this. But again, I think that we need to identify clearly, what we want to see. And to that degree, I think we also have to have a clear idea of what everyone else is seeing. And one of the things they mentioned in the equity presentation was this perceptual survey. And I think that what might help is if we had some sort of survey to find out, well, what are people seeing? And, you know, my kids come to me who went to Parker at Bloom, they tell me all sorts of stuff, you know, that they see. They told me my last speech I gave them was terrible, because it went too long. They were very honest, but they liked one part. And I think that we have lots of resources we could pull from. One of the things that I think that is exemplified by our presentations is there are incredible things happening at this school. You know, and when I look at the graduation, like we're going to see next week, there's a sea of kids who are incredible kids, tremendous kids. You know, I try not to be tearful as I'm looking at them because they're so great. And, you know, as I said before, there are no bad kids. There's some kids who don't know how good they can be. Some kids developmentally haven't quite got the executive functioning down in their brain to really manage themselves. We call this immaturity sometimes. Some kids need that extra support. But I think with this is underlying, I think the disconnects are a disconnect in maybe how people are seeing things. And so again, I really stress addressing that and identifying what do we want to see and what's our mission. And I think that's something perhaps the committee could help to address. I think they mentioned something to that effect as they were in the equity committee. And I think that it might help aid in identifying what are some resources we could address, whether it's a district leadership team, whether it's board committee, however that looks. But I do think we need to address what are people's different perspectives.
So I'm hearing a couple of different things. So one is there needs to be a pretty quick turnaround to deal with short-term challenges, issues, whatever you want to call it. And whether or not that's and that needs to happen at the building level. A conversation between administrators and teachers. And whether or not that and possibly a board member, and whether or not, there's a committee that comes out of that, we can discuss that. We can figure that piece out, but that needs to happen immediately. And part of that short-term list of items also includes, whether or not we want to do some sort of survey. I mean, I think I suggested this last year, or maybe it was the year before that, and I think what ended up happening was that they randomly selected a few kids to come in and ask them, how was your year this year? Because that's not how we should do that. But I do think it is absolutely crucial that we hear from as many people as we can. And obviously, we're not going to do it necessarily in this setting, but we can do it in a survey. But I really want to hear from our students. Because, in this entire conversation, and as we've been talking about this, we have not had one student, and I'm not surprised, to come before the board and talk to us about what they have been experiencing. I remember your son doing it last year, but we need to hear student voices, and I think that I want to know what their reality is based on their perception, because they are living it in a very different way than we are hearing about it. So, our Chromebooks, they turned into Chromebooks? Chromebooks been turned in already?
Yeah, at the 8th grade right now, yes. And next.
So there could be a quick and dirty way to some Survey Monkey or something. But it definitely should not be the way it was done last time, which is, pull a couple of kids in the classroom and say, how was your school year? But that's the short-term, immediate stuff to get us through the next couple of weeks. But we have to tackle the safety issue. And, maybe that's a committee that's a part of this. But
can I say something while you're talking this out? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about something. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but this may be something horrible, but even to think about. If I'm a student and I've been disruptive and I'm not leaving the classroom, and I've mouthed the teacher off, I've done everything, cursed the teacher out, she's asked me or he's asked me to leave, and I'm not leaving. Security comes in, you better not put your hands on me, because I know you shouldn't put your hands on me. I'm still not leaving.
Where do we go from that? Where do we go from that point?
911.
Okay. So that's definitely.
Absolutely. Like I said,
See, I'm in control. If I'm a student and I realize that all the other students are watching me, I'm in control at this point. I control the teacher. I've got security under control, so I just want to know where it doesn't get lost.
Right, and I think that's why it's important to have the procedures in place. You know, at that point, that room should be empty, other than the adults trying to de-escalate and work with the child. Right, so we move the other students to another location. So, all right, so what I'm hearing is we'll start gathering some more information. It's from adults, it's from students. We can bring that, we can have a report ready for the board on the 11th, but obviously we will have to gather the information over the next 7 to 8 days.
Along with the size gathering information, it's been my experience in wrestling with this issue that the anecdotal information is better than the variety of reasons. Not that we shouldn't circuit, but if it's not a huge pain to generate, I would love an abstract of, say, the last 2 months of physical incidents. I don't know if there's, if they're not splashed without getting student names involved, but I want to submit the anecdotal, qualitative summary of what's been going on in the school. So I don't want to, I'm not looking to generate 10 hours of administrative work, but if we can get some summary of that.
Oh, that's the easy part. It's frankly, it's all the qualitative interviews that will command the rest of the school year.
So,
which is okay. It's not an issue. You just have to know that going in.
And then I would.
So you said qualitative interviews. I mean, so I don't think there's an expectation that, 100 interviews are done between now and the next 2 weeks.
Sure. No, but I mean, I think that's where the survey will only give us so much, right? So, meeting with the children, that's probably the hardest part, because they're here only a short amount of time during the day, and it's finding them on our schedule.
Well, I mean, and so if there's times, and maybe it's you start with the survey data, because there's no reason why we couldn't, why every student couldn't do a quick survey. It's 3 questions.
What are you trying to find out?
I think we want to know what their perception is of the discipline problem at work.
Okay.
And whether or not they feel like punishment is adequate. I mean, so I think that we can do a quick 2 questions survey. I know I'm not.
It can be answered anonymously.
We're not
It can be
doing
answered
it
anonymously.
but it's enough. Right, and I'm not suggesting that that's how you write the question, but the question was, what information do we want to know? And I think what we want to know is what kids are thinking in the field.
So how about I bring you a recommendation? Because we're doing a little bit of problem solving, and I have to think through some of these challenges. I don't believe in anonymous surveys.
Well, no, if I'm a student, maybe I may not want to answer your survey, and I got some real information, but if I think that it brings some action against me from another student, possibly hearing that I squeal, because I mean, kids may not speak up for that reason. Sure. Right.
Is there any chance of inviting students to come speak to us at the next board meeting? I don't really want to hear from the kids.
Yeah.
My own kids are totally useless for this. I want to hear from the kids who've actually seen some of this stuff, because
who are the 4 kids who are using the class? What's the story?
Well, and I just recently had suggested, since we're doing these listening tours, and I think you did one, maybe the tours should include having lunch with kids, like the conversation with kids, instead of just, a conversation with just the teachers going in and out.
There are school boards with student representatives.
One of the things that you mentioned in River Forest was the impact that the impact of having a student advisory committee that the faculty requested once they read the perception data, to really help them better understand.
Right. I actually think that is quite powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that done before, where teachers actually were quite amazed at the comments. I mean, so.
Are there standard tools out there in cyberspace where I can't imagine when the first, middle school come up with, hey, let's find out what's going on there, or climate and culture discipline. I imagine that there's already questions generated as you research and
Well, we have our normal,
We can bring the 5 cents of data.
So what I'm trying to argue for is you really need your conversation. You don't need, like I'm sure.
Right, I like to give our attention.
Right, so they're all checked out already.
so what can we get in the next 48 hours? I mean,
So what are you looking to do with it? I guess that's what you have to be clear on. So we can give you all this information by Friday, and then what are we going to do with it that generates that much urgency in gathering all the data?
So I don't have an answer to that question, but off of Cam's good conversation, and this is totally learning from my first day. So there's I'm sorry. So we have this, the school has, the university has a snack and chat or something. So essentially, incoming students sit down with their professors. You just kind of sit at a table and come up and then you just kind of talk about expectations. And then they can ask questions about, what can they expect for the school year. And so it's basically for the incoming freshman, but I don't have any So some lesser version of that, because if you have snacks, kids are gonna love that. So, something where they can come, they can speak freely, so it's not, no one's being put on the spot to Meryl's point, and it's just a conversation, like, how did it go? And especially to the point of, as kids are coming back. So it sets an expectation, and so if there are kids who don't feel like they're being heard, or there are kids who felt like they were being marginalized or whatever, then in this moment they know they're being heard. So again, I don't know if this is at a higher education level, but it can kind of be tempered down to little people.
Sure.
Okay, what do you want?
I'm sorry?
So
I have a lot here.
Yeah.
I have a lot. But that's why I want to be very clear about what you're looking for me to deliver so that I can do that. We absolutely can deliver on the administration and Parker staff, communication this week, follow up with them. Judy Kubis and I are actually going to hit an upcoming building leadership team meeting at this building. We want to hear from students, but not just 2 or 3. So how do we really cast a wide net? The snack and chat is a really good idea, just to let students self-select into those conversations. We'll bring back the 2 months of discipline data. That will be no problem. But then really, as I work with students, what's their perception? The discipline issue, it was a very clear message that we heard last year when the student did address the board, right? And if we're going to take we have to make sure that we're evenly applying our support on those comments, whether they're from students or from children, and to take them into account in our response. We can invite students to the next board meeting to address the board in open comment.
I guess you asked about the survey. I guess the survey of students would help us have a broader, bigger picture of the ground. If we could get the right questions to capture the right information, we could find out, we could get an understanding of the fear. At least if there are students terrified, I want to be able to hear that and understand in what spaces or why. And I want, sometimes the survey is also empowering. It's also a way to provide agency and voice for students so that they can understand that we hear them and that it's important to us that they have a platform to even speak to this. But then we also want to hear from the students who, for whatever reason, are unaffected by some of the things that are happening here so that we can have a real clear picture. So I would love a survey sooner than later.
So what I want you to do, sir.
I would. I know it's hard.
Okay, what would you like me to ask?
I don't mind working on the question.
I think we all appreciate this.
we're asking a lot.
I know.
If
Yeah,
you
that's
ever
okay.
Give us, well,
Yeah, okay. Are you on tomorrow?
So Carolyn.
Is it on tomorrow?
Yeah, we're on tomorrow.
Let's connect.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I do not want to throw out the idea of, I do think there needs to be a separate pull-out committee, however we want to define it, that is working on the school safety, like going, so that next month and the month after, we're still not having these exact same conversations.
I need feedback from the board. I can make all of these recommendations now without another committee.
I agree on the committee, that's all.
On the school,
Volunteer giant, so.
I don't know that we can deliver this in a month if we form a committee.
I don't think that it needs to be, I mean, so I'm not thinking about, okay, so the way that we work with our other committees, right? So we plan out a month ahead, and I'm thinking, can you meet in the next few days or, or the next week or something and start sort of hammering through
What's
some
the
of these
magic
things.
number for non-public meeting days?
You can have two.
What are we going, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but what are we looking to accomplish?
We need the information that we asked for before we have the conversation. There's some pieces that we don't have a full picture of. So I mean, I think there's some things that we know for sure, like we have one solution, 911 will be called if the student has a standoff. So that's one piece. But the other things that we're asking him for, we used to give them to us before
Before the board is open, right? But at the same time, having a board member in the room might get you the information faster.
Okay. I thought you meant to do committee work. Because we need the information for the committee to function. But
Whatever we want to call it, I just don't want us
You need
to
to get
sit.
this information.
Right, I just don't
I
want
agree.
us
I
to
totally
sit and continue to be stuck.
No.
And I think that
No.
if we have some people who are willing to.
Well, I'm available Friday. If you all are, I'm available Friday if you want to include one of those pieces and the board member present to gather some qualitative feedback from administration, teachers.
And one thing that I think that's important, if we want to do a student survey, I think, two things. One is we need to ask the question, get away, or flat out. Because after hearing someone say their child does not feel safe coming down the hall, we need to find out if kids feel safe. We also need to find out if they feel that their learning is being interrupted in any way. And I don't know how we can form that question. I think that's two important things there.
But we know the answer to both of those. The answer is yes. I can tell you that they're in situations like this, they'll learn an behavior interruption. I mean, we know that.
We know that it's being interrupted, but I think again, hearing their voices and not hitting in our own.
Sure. Okay.
I just think it's important.
So you do have a lot, but I think the first part of this that you just mentioned probably sounds a little bit clearer than this last part with the community. So I think maybe, I'm happy to talk through that, and if you want to then throw it out to the board to make sure we're all on the same page about what we're doing here.
Sure.
And when we talk about staff, I think that may pertain to staff. Teachers feel safe. What are they finding as interrupting you besides student or, again, voices? We need everybody at the table in a sense, hearing their voice.
So I think all that can be a part of, the survey data, yes. So, because I think all those are very important questions. And I do agree, Carolyn, I think that if there is, if we do decide to create a longer term discipline committee, because we did talk about it, I think, at least for the past couple of years, then we do need to have more information to help us think about what the purpose of the committee would be. But, my whole goal right now of trying to go through this is because we're not moving anywhere.
with these topics. And we keep having, and we've said this long before we joined our team, we keep having the same conversations about this. And we gotta ask hard questions and come up with solutions. And maybe all the solutions won't be the right ones, but when everybody stands up and says the exact same thing, that there's no clarity, there's no policy, there's no accountability, like that's just. So, okay. Are we ready to move on? Thank you for volunteering to be on the committee. I'm excited.
Just to clarify, I'm not moving on the committee until we provide all these other data pieces, correct?
That is correct, but there are ways that you can, that the board can support in these items. And so, board members are available to be a part of what makes sense.
That's wonderful. I could use some guidance.
We're not doing this by ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, board topics.
Any questions?
Any questions? I'm gonna roll through these because this all falls under discussion.
We are going to bring an updated,
Discuss these things and we don't have to.
we'll bring one of these back and updated. There were a couple of carryovers from 16, 17 that needed to be on the board topics for 17, 18, and we can pull them off for 18, 19. So there are a couple, we'll highlight which ones they are, but there were a couple of milquetoast ones that we can pull off.
Can you just remind us, is transportation on the board topics for next month?
Next one.
I think we do meet, okay, perfect. Any other questions about board topics? Summer speech language pathologist contracts addendum. Any questions about the summer speech language pathologist? No. Memorandum of understanding, Flossmoor Internal University summer credit. Questions or comments on the summer courses? Next item, District 161, Acceleration Policy, Public Act 100421. Questions? Comments, discussion?
Would it be, if there's no comments or questions, would it be useful to give a brief outline? This is something that parents are always interested in.
What do you look like?
Just a little background.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, the Illinois school policy now requires districts to have a formal acceleration policy. A lot of the procedures that are outlined in the document that you have are things that District 161 has been doing informally, but the policy now requires us to do it formally and have a formal referral process for subject acceleration. So an example of that would be a third grader who is referred for going to fourth grade or fifth grade for math or for reading, but staying in that grade level on record. And then another example, a whole grade level acceleration, of course, would be that same third grade